All right, guys, so it's probably pretty clear what we're going to be talking about today. My largest trade ever, $70,000 profit here on SMCI, trading it to the downside, taking advantage of the very aggressive drop over the last few days. And there are some very key things in terms of the technicals, but also in terms of the market, overall market, and the semiconductor sector that got me interested in this play. There was some key breakdowns on key levels, but there was also a feeling and an understanding of the semiconductor sector and the overall market that gave me this interest and made me want to go ahead and take this position. So in today's video, we're just going to do a basic review of this position. We're going to log into my account. We're going to share with you guys the performance. We're going to go into TradeZella, break down some details of the trade, and then just review exactly what I was looking for and my overall mindset behind this position. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Biggest trade of my trading career. Very excited about this one. But let's make sure, as we always do, we pull this profit out, we come back to square one, and we try to go ahead and do it again. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way. If I'm going to say I made a lot of money, I'm going to back it up with a live login in my account. I'm not the type of person that's going to make these crazy claims and not show you proof of what I did. So, of course, we're going to try to log into our paper trading account. No, we're not. It's not paper trading. We're going to log into my live broker, and we are going to see it pull up and see what happens. So you can see right here, open IBKR notifications on your phone. This is where Interactive Brokers will request my face. So it's going to look at my face. It's going to log me into my account. You can see right now it is starting to log in, and we're going to kill some time here until that goes and heads and takes effect and we get logged into our broker. So while we wait for that, SMCI, you guys know, has been a crazy, crazy upside move, and there were some keys and some key levels and some sort of breaks in structure that got me interested in this trade. And and over the last few days is a result of a large position that I was actually very comfortable in. And we're going to talk through that sort of comfortable, that level of comfort that I was in this position sizing, and how I'm happy to say that, you know, even with this size of position, I've been able to find some comfort in holding these positions. So here it is, guys. Here's my broker. I'll go ahead and include everything on the screen. So let me go ahead and shrink this so you can see everything here on the screen. Let me get it all within your viewing pleasure. So here's Interactive Brokers. If this was a simulated account, it would say all over the screen, this is a fake account. This is a simulated trading account. It would be everywhere. So this is not. I actually did make this trade. You guys can see right here, we're up $69,700 realized on this position. Today it was $40,000 alone, $34,000 on some March 22nd 1100 puts, and $6,100 today on some March 28th 1050 puts. This was upwards of $11,000. This was upwards of about $60,000 on that position. So we can go to my entries and exits. I'll go ahead and go by financial instrument, and we can go down, and it was all right here. So the March 1050 puts, we took March 18th at 958, exited those today, entry and exit right there. You can see I bought them at 51, sold them at 161.94. The March 22nd puts, I bought those March 15th at 930 at 1055. I bought those at 60 and 58. I sold those for 213 and 196. So those are all of my entries and exits, but I have this in TradeZella, so let's go ahead and now pull that up. We'll get a little bit more detail of this trade. All right, guys, so here is my day on TradeZella. You can see we realized about $70,000 right there, $69,652. You can see these are the two trades. This is the 1100 put, which made about $58,000. This is the 1050 put, which made about $11,000 right there. So let's go ahead and start with the 1100 put. This is the position that I opened last week and held it into this week, and I want to break down why I did that. So here is my entries and exits on this position. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so you can see my entries and my exits. So right here was entry, and here today was exit. I had about a 245% gain. It was about the planned R was about a 4R, so 4-to-1 risk reward. The realized was about 6.48. Now, let me break down what my risk reward was on this trade, because with every large trade, right, your first question is, how much did he risk? What was he looking at? What was he willing to lose on this trade? I was willing to lose about $10,000, right? That was around where I figured I would see my position get stopped out. It was right around that $10,000 mark. It was right around $37 per contract. And let me go ahead and break down where that came in. So on Friday of last week, we can see right here, actually, let me go into the 30-minute chart. We started to see a level of rejection form on SMCI. This was around an 1160 level. So right here, we had SMCI. We had a big rejection of that 1230 level. We had a sort of rejection up here last week around Thursday, Wednesday. And we had this very clear level that formed around this 1160, 1160, 1160, 1160, right here on Thursday, 1160. And so coming into Friday, my mindset was short SMCI pretty much right out of the open and stay in that short as long as we're under 1160. That was my first initial game plan, right? That was all that I was thinking about. I'm going to short SMCI. You guys can see right here. We had this little 1160, 1160, 1160, 1160, and Thursday, if I go to Thursday, I'll go to Thursday right now. You can see Thursday of last week, we had 1160 and 1160. So coming into Friday, I said to myself, short SMCI, and as long as it's under 1160, you stay in this trade. And 1160, the contracts would have been around that 30 mark, and I would have lost about $10,000 if it got above that 1160, which it never did. But I want to share with you why I had that idea. So right here, you can see, I started to see a very clear failure to hold above these previous highs. 1, 2, 3 previous highs. We failed to hold above that area here on a potential lower high, right? We had a high here and a lower high here, and we failed to hold above 1160. So when you're looking at SMCI here, right, for SMCI to be strong here, it would have had to get back above 1160, regain that level, right, and then try to push to new highs. It did not do that. It pushed higher, it failed to hold that previous level, and it turned it back into a rejection, right? So then I can just go ahead and say, hey, I like that we're back under this 1160 level. I like that we're back under this supply. Let me take a short and look for this thing to fall over and stay under that 1160 level. That was my Friday entry. That was a large reason as to why I started that entry on Friday. Now, before we get any further, let me go ahead and say something about another thing that made me interested in downside on SMCI. The other major thing that made me interested in downside on SMCI was the failure on NVIDIA. Ever since this drop on NVIDIA back on Friday of a few weeks back on March 3rd, ever since that major downside day, I'm sure you guys probably remember that, ever since that day, I've seen relative weakness in the semiconductors. There has been a very clear sort of failure to make new highs, a very clear sort of consolidation to weakness moves on the semiconductor stocks. On top of that, we've seen AMD have a really tough few days, right? Tough few weeks. We've had stocks like TSM pulling back over that period. We've had stocks like MU pulling back off the highs and being unable to make new highs, right? This was a high, unable to make new highs, unable to make new highs. That's MU. That's semiconductors. TSM, same thing. Highs, failure, right? That's TSM, that's semiconductors. AMD, after that big pop, right? We had a failure to hold, and failure to hold. And I started to feel like semiconductors needed some pullback. So where did my brain go? Right? My brain went to what semiconductor is so insanely high that should see some aggressive downside or should participate in the weakness if there is some lack of strength, if there is some getting out of positions, de-risking of longs in semiconductors. My mind immediately went to SMCI. And I think this is for good reason because this is the weekly chart, right? I think we all are very aware of the weekly chart on SMCI. And we just needed that one crack, that one sign of weakness on the NASDAQ, but also more importantly on the semiconductor sector to sort of get some of that selling to step in, right? We didn't want to start shorting SMCI on the insane upside rally that every previous high became a new low, every support continued to hold. We started to get those cracks in NVIDIA and some of those other semis, and this is why I started to look to attack SMCI. I knew SMCI would be expensive, but I knew that it would provide me with fantastic risk to reward. So that's why I got in on Friday. I used that 1160 level as my stop loss, and I used that knowledge of watching sectors, understanding sector strength, understanding if we're sort of on the back end of a move, if the move is starting to consolidate or die off. This type of analysis really helped me gain confidence into this position. So we had this very clear fail of 1160, and that was my entry, and I did not touch the position for the rest of the day Friday. So let me go ahead and split this up into days, right? We're going to go ahead and split this up into the days after my entry. So let's go ahead and start. This is Friday. This was my entry day right here. My plan was to stay in shorts under 1160. It never even got close, and I stayed in the position. I never touched it, and I swung it over the weekend. Coming into Monday, you are going to see my patience get tested, right? This is where my patience really got tested on Monday. So what I want to do is I want to pull up the SMCI options contract. This was the $1,100 put that I had, and you're going to see that my average on this position, if I go back to here, was around $59.53. So that was my break even. $59.53 on 4 contracts was where I was going to be break even on this position. So here is Friday. I'm going to go ahead and put the time on Friday. I know it's a little bit uneasy to see where the time starts and ends, but this is open on Friday, and then 1600 right here is about close on Friday. So right here is Friday's move on the option contracts that I had. Pretty much the whole day, I was about break even, but we stayed below my stop loss, and I stayed in the position. We closed the day on Friday on a very nice pop, closing the day around $80 a contract. So I was up about $10,000 at the close of Friday, the close of the weekend. Now, what we said where I got my patience tested, we had a move to the downside right out of that Monday open, right? Monday open, we had a low of around $50 a contract, meaning I was down about $8 a contract, which means I was down about $3,200. 800 times 4, 8, 16, 24, 32. At my peak, I was down about $3,200, which I thought was a very comfortable drawdown, of course, but it was getting very close to my stop loss level. So if I go back to SMCI's underlying chart, you can see right here, right? We had a very aggressive, let me go ahead and zoom in on this. We had a very aggressive and a little bit of an uneasy pop to start the day on Monday right here, right? You can see right here, quick pop on Monday, quick aggressive pop, but we failed that 1160 level, and I stayed in the position, and I stayed calm. The rest of the day was an absolute dream for me. This was a dream rest of the day on Monday. Now, I want to make something clear here. This was actually quite an easy trade to manage, which is very nice to know, right? It wasn't that sweaty at any point during this trade. You see the large dollar amount, you see the large percentage point, and this just was a very clean trade from start to end. I didn't have to do that much management. I didn't have to go into any drawdown, which is awesome. I just had to stay true to my stop loss level. As long as the stock was under my stop, I was in the position. And you guys hear me say this so much on this channel. If you have a game plan and you have a stop loss, do not get out of the position because the stock is going against you. Stay in the position until your level is broken, until your plan is invalidated. And you can see it got close, right? It got close. I got tested, but I stayed strong. And I knew that under 1160, SMCI could stay weak. That's what it did. Now, this leads us to my next entry. And this was really the entry that I went with the group on. And you guys can see right here in the Desi swing section, right here, this was yesterday. This was a Monday entry around 10 o'clock. We took some March 28th 1050 puts on SMCI. I had a stop over 1080 and a target of 1,000. Okay? This was the trade that we went in with the group, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up TradeZella, and now we can go over that trade really quickly, or at least we'll go over the entry of that trade really quickly and why I took it. So here was my entry. On SMCI, you can see took it relatively early morning, and I've been holding ever since. You guys can see I exited that today. The reason I took this trade and was confident to hold it was this breakdown right here. And this was 1080. Why is 1080 so important? So if we zoom out here and we go to the hourly chart on SMCI, we're going to need a little bit more time here. Let's go 90-day, 1 hour. Let's get rid of these gray areas because, man, is that ugly. But we're going to look at this right here. And if we look to the left, what is the large level that rejected back here in February? I mean, we literally dropped from $1,080 a share down to $700 a share in 2 days on SMCI off of 1080. So that should tell you, right? If we fail back under 1080, things are going to get weak, right? That's a scary level for longs. Longs do not want to see SMCI under $1,080 a share. 1080, big level. We do not want to see it under that if we are long. And let me go ahead and show you exactly what it did on Monday of this week. If we zoom in on this 1080 and we look at this 5-minute chart, right? Look at how perfect this truly was. Monday morning, we had that rejection of 1160. We failed. We dropped under 1080, and look at that beautiful action right there. If I go down to the 2-minute chart, it's going to be even more pretty. Here's the 2-minute chart, and let's go back into Monday's action. Look at this pure beauty. We had a drop and rejection of 1080, and when I saw that come in, that was it, right? I was locked. I was locked in this trade, and I was holding on for much more. I knew that if we are going to hold under that 1080 level, if I'm looking at this short-term rejection right here in the morning, right around that 10 o'clock time frame where I went ahead and I alerted the group of this trade, if we're going to see that rejection step in, I am going to stay confident. So I entered that second entry. I entered that second position here, which was these SMCI 1050 puts. I entered those right here. You can see the 1050 puts right around that 10 o'clock time frame at $51 a contract. Sold those today for $162 a contract. That was because of this. It was because of the rejection of 1080, which was such a crucial and, in my opinion, a terrifying level for longs, right? Look how scary that level is for someone that's trying to long there. If you could look back at that, right? Look back at this 1080 level and look at that nastiness. That just shows me that, hey, if we're going to fail under this level, we're going to reject under this 1080, reject under where it has held support for a few weeks, and if we're going to see that rejection intraday, I am short. I am short with confidence, and I'm going to target. Where am I going to target? Why was my entry there, and why was my target 1,000? This is why my target was 1,000. 1,000 previous highs, 1,000 lows, and so I was targeting 1,000. Alongside of that, I was targeting the daily 20 SMA. That was my original target, and that is where I plan to potentially exit this position or look to see if there would be more downside. This was my initial target with the group right here, and right here at the daily 20 SMA. Now, why did I hold it one more day? What made me want to hold one more day? So let's go ahead and zoom into yesterday's action, and let me explain to you why I decided to give it one more day. Here it is right here. We had that test of 1,000 intraday on Monday. We did not see any support that made me want to exit this position, right? We had a little bit of support, but we ultimately failed just about 10, 15 minutes later. So we got under the 20, we got under 1,000, and we were trading under this and looking very weak for all of the afternoon, all of the early afternoon. Later afternoon, we had a little bit of a pop back higher, and we started to see some rejections at this daily 20 SMA. If I go to the 15-minute chart, right, you can see that we just did not look strong trying to hold back above that daily 20. We had some very ugly wicks, some wick rejections on the top of it, and I told myself, let's give this another day. Let's see if this is a rejection of the daily 20, which could lead to a gap fill, right? And this is what really got me holding into this position, was the gap fill that I was sort of targeting if we could see a rejection under the daily 20. That is right here. You guys can see right here. This is back on March 1st to March 4th. We had a gap up from around 926 to around, give or take, around this 1020 level. And I knew that if we were going to reject, right, if we were going to reject under this daily 20 SMA and under this $1,000 level, there would be a chance that SMCI could fill this gap up, right? And so I started to see that general rejection of that daily 20, that general rejection of 1,000, and then I went ahead and I went for the gap fill. And you can see today, we definitely filled that gap, right? We had that morning downside. You can see sort of filling that gap this morning, and I went ahead and I took profits today on this position. That's a lot to take in, but I tried to explain it the best I could. Let me do a quick recap to explain exactly what I was looking for from square one, right, and why I took this position. Step one was the weakness on semis, the understanding that a lot of semiconductors started to lose some steam. What was the stock that I felt like could move the lowest if there was weakness? It was SMCI after some major upside. Next, I went to my technical levels. Number one was 1160. I saw 1160 start to become a very clear supply high. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we saw on Thursday and Friday of last week, we can knock it above it. I set up my short with a stop over 1160. We did not break it into Friday close. I held it over the weekend. Monday comes around. We get that push into 1160. We reject it again. I stay in the trade. What's next? What's the next level below? The next level below is 1080. I know this is a scary level for longs. I know that if we get under that 1080, that we could absolutely see more downside and potentially move back to the 20 SMA and fill the upside gap. Monday, we get the clear break and retest rejection of that 1080 level, keeping me in the trade. We get a rejection of the daily 20, keeping me in the trade one more day. And today, I am a profit taker of about $70,000 on SMCI puts. So, I hope you guys can see how this trade, while it was big, while it was aggressive, it had everything to do with the technical levels on SMCI. 1160 supply, 1080 break and retest rejection of 1,000 in the 20 SMA. At every point during this trade, I felt controlled. I felt understanding of the levels that were going on, and I tried my best to avoid looking at my P&L, avoid knowing and paying attention to how much size was in the trade, because at no point during this trade, not a single point during this trade, besides that Monday open, right? I'm going to be honest with you. The only point, my voice cracked, the only point during this trade where I had any type of emotion or a little bit of doubt was this Monday squeeze, right? Monday squeeze into 1160 was a little bit questionable. But after I saw that weakness follow just about 5 minutes after that squeeze, I was comfortable as I could be, right? Seeing this downside come in after rejecting off the exact level you wanted to see reject, it just sort of gives you that level of comfort, and that is what I got with this SMCI trade. So I hope this analysis makes sense to you. I hope you understand the levels that I was going over. Once again, here is my broker. You can see it right here on your screen. We have about a $69,700 profit, and I will be taking out $70,000 out of my portfolio tomorrow. So we will be starting back at $30,000 starting tomorrow. If you guys enjoyed today's video, press that like button. If you want to trade live with me every day, the link is down in the description. I hope you enjoyed the recap, understood the technical levels, understood sort of that sector analysis, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.